Hey there, Keith Franks here from Cutlass Board Games, back with another Devlog. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about something different from what I've been doing, and it's the kind of mindsets when it comes to designing games and designing narratives. Now, a lot of what I do while I'm multitasking, I'll have like a YouTube tutorial or something running on my second screen while I'm tinkering with things. Or I'm like checking my marketing or like looking at all my stats or whatever. And one of the things that I've been watching recently is Brandon Sanderson's series of lectures about writing a novel. Because when I found it, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'll check this out. Surely it's going to be tangentially related to what I'm working on. And I mean, I also kind of maybe dream of writing a book one day, so it could help. And there was one really particular key moment in the first lecture that I wanted to bring up and talk about because it was kind of a light bulb moment for me. And he talks about the different kinds of write, like the different styles of how people write stuff. And he gives two examples. The first example is the architect. The architect has a really, really strong outline. He, sets up kind of like what the plot is going to look like as it runs along. And when writing, it's like filling in those gaps, right? Which that's how I make board games. I have my really, really solid proof of concept of what I know I want the final product to look like. And as I'm going through and building each thing, I design a card. How does this serve the final product idea? If I'm designing a board, how does this fit? You know what I mean? I connect all of these things together so that it serves my idea, my vision of the final product. And because I'm not writing 100,000 words to get there, it's not that bad. But you're also looking at and this connects to this other thing that I've created, and then this looks at this, and you're building all the different things, and you're looking at right, and that's pretty much how he described the architect writing style to be. And then the second type was the gardener. And now the gardener starts with very well-defined characters and then kind of just writes and finds out what happens to them. And I thought this was really, really interesting. So one of the things that he said about these two types was that if the type that works best for you is the gardener, and you're going and working on it like an architect, you'll build the whole thing, and then you'll feel like you've done it and you're bored and there's no adventure in discovering what's supposed to happen. And here I am looking at my incomplete projects going, shit, there's like a nugget of truth here. And so that made me reconsider how I think about different things. And so I wanted to make a comparison between the two different ways that I have been designing games, right? The first one, the example I'm going to use, is Winning Love by Daylight. It's fun. Winning Love by Daylight, I designed 8 characters and I gave them a really strong sense of identity, and I had kind of an idea of what they looks like now, what they kind of looks like at full power, what like their interests are, all this kind of stuff. I went through and developed a solid identity for them so that I could describe them as if they were a friend to someone. And then I was just like, this is the story. You are introduced as the main character. This is you going to the prom, and there's a villain in there somewhere. And I would just write stuff. I would talk to the fans, and the fans would be like, man, I wish they did this. And I'm like, shit, let's do that. Or they go dress shopping. Or there's a thing that happens at school, or all this kind of stuff. And it didn't matter. And none of these things were specifically important to the plotline, but you got to see the characters doing things, and you got to learn the things about the characters that I know through seeing them do stuff. And that was what made it really, really easy for me just to write so many things for this game, especially because it's not a novel. Like it's not a book. It's not you start at one point and you read to the other point, right? It's messy. You could ignore 80% of the game in your first playthrough because you just pick different lines, right? So a lot of it needs to be specifically about character development for someone that you would literally not read if you were interested in developing a different character, right? So you can't have key plot points in a place that's unseen and all this kind of stuff. But that's like literally the gardener approach. It's like exactly what it was. And I believe that if I had taken the architect approach to doing that, and it probably wouldn't have gotten as far as it does today, right? And then I've been working on a few just like writing projects just to like kind of keep practice and like, I don't know, maybe release a book one day. And I was finding that I was having that exact problem. I would come in, I would do something, I would know what the entire story is already, and then I would get bored and it feels like it's done, and putting in the actual words and actually writing the story, it doesn't really work. Which was kind of a struggle, right? But then I realized, hang on a minute, I need to rearrange my approach on how I'm creating things, because when I'm making board games, that's architect brain. When I'm writing stories, that's gardener brain, right? And you can be making board games and have stories in it, and then so you have to turn on that other part of the brain and go, okay, I'm creating a board game that has key characters, that has story elements in it, or like I'm writing a backstory that connects these characters to the gameplay, and I have to go, okay, I need to develop these characters first. I need to figure out how they're going to interact in this world. And the architect brain is doing the world building, is doing the mechanical design, is looking at what the components are going to be, is looking at all this kind of stuff, right? Building the game. Gardener brain is like, okay, let's chill out, let's find out how this super important character is going to interact in that world. And I thought that that was something interesting, and I've been doing this for a while, and it was all of a sudden this huge light bulb moment for me, and I figured that I wanted to come in and talk about it for a hot minute, because that might be something that you as a creator had no idea that you were doing in whatever you're doing. Like, let's use a canvas as a cool analogy. You might pull out this blank canvas and sketch an outline of exactly what you want to draw, the new like skyline, and then paint it in, right? Or do a watercolor where you have your stencil kind of thing, and you fill in the lines. And then that's kind of the architect approach. You know what the bigger picture is going to look like, literally, it's going to look like when it's done. Or you're taking a more of a gardener approach, where you know what kind of a feeling you want to communicate, but you don't really know how you're going to get there or what it's going to look like when it's done, and you're kind of just putting stuff up, you're building it as you go along. And both are super valid. Both are your personal journey to get to the final product and stuff. You know, there's probably other ways. There's probably fucking an infinite number of different ways on how people create things and think about creating things. These were just the two examples that Brandon Sanderson gave, and I was like, wait a minute, shit. It kind of made me realize something. And so in your journey in creating stuff, that's something that you should be mindful of. How do I best work on projects? Do I have a lot of dropped projects because, like I do, I build something and I don't have the confidence in to release it myself, or I don't have the budget or whatever? It's not the thing that I'm going to put all of my time and effort into releasing because I'm not 1000% sure it's going to be a slam dunk, and then I drop it, right? That's kind of how I work. Or did I build something and then lose steam because I felt like I had done it already, because I was bored with the project, it had nothing else that it was inspiring me to keep going, and so it got dropped, you know? And I think having a look back at those kind of thoughts, and having a look back at why maybe something didn't work out, maybe some of the ideas that you have been dropped, and pick it up again and have a look at it, or restart it from a new angle. I yesterday did a video where I picked up an old project that I had dropped and I remade it with the same design goal, using similar scope, same ideas, and reworked it in a way that I think works heaps better because I came at it from a different direction. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really wanted to say. If you're interested in more of these kind of devlog kind of stuff, more of this kind of tutorial kind of stuff, hit subscribe, hit like, throw down in the comments, Keith, I love you, because I really need serotonin in my life right now. And just come and hang out with us on Twitch stream. I'm doing a lot more of this kind of stuff, just live, hanging out with people, talking about stuff. Come ask me questions. Like I'm working on a game here, and you're like, why the hell did you do that? I'll tell you. I'll go through and explain what I'm thinking, what's going on, and you can find links to my Twitch stream in the description. And come and hang out, and I hope that I get to see you either over on there or see you in my next video. So I'll catch you then.